Mr. David Rosendorf, welcome to the Rich Equation podcast.
Oh, thank you very much. I've been thinking about this for quite some time and super excited to be here.
I'm really honored that you're here. I'm excited for this conversation. I think that we're going to go into all different types of places here. You have a lot of things to share with the audience and lots of things that I am excited to get out of you today to create value for them. So actually, I want to start with some business stuff because you are working, you own a freight forwarding business and have been in the freight industry
Correct.
for a really long time. And relevant to today and business and what's going on in the business environment, I want to give people some of that, and then we'll get into some other overcoming obstacles and personal and things like that.
Right. Freight is kind of boring, but we'll make it exciting.
We'll make it exciting today. So one of the things that I don't know if the audience really knows, but freight global freight in the last couple of years has been a mess. And you at the helm of a decent sized freight in business, I really want to try to get your perspective of how you managed through that. And so just to give people context, freight went from $2,800 a container to the West Coast from China, let's say, to the West Coast to almost $25,000 in the span of less than 3 months. It was a big surprise to the whole world. I wouldn't even say that it was a significant amount of demand, but it was a big mess, and freight costs went erratic. And people had to deal with very complicated problems. You had margin erosion. You had a significant increase in payables. You can imagine your costs went up by 10x. You float funds from customers, so it's a very stressful time.
Right.
And everything moved really, really quickly. So I'm fascinated, less to talk about like the technical thing of what happened, but more about what you learned about yourself, what you learned about your business in that significantly dramatic time, and what did you see around you in terms of other clients or vendors or other business owners that dealt with that incredibly dramatic period of time?
Right. Well, Ashish, I would say it was unbelievable. It was a whirlwind. It made your head spin. Okay. Because the change in the business environment happened, as you said, so quickly. To run a business and budget money at a consistent cost of goods, you can handle that. Now, this cost of goods and your expenses went up by 10x. And what did you have to do? You couldn't go to the bank right away. You couldn't get an extra couple of million, 5, 10 million on your line of credit. So you had to dig deep into your resources. And what's your best resources? Is your relationships. So you had to reach out to your clients, to your vendors, which vendors that you could extend payments to, what clients really could assist to help you. I have clients that I know that get paid prior to delivery, during production. We work together to make different type of payment plans. The credit terms that were existing, they totally went out the window. It was all about my 15, 20 years of relationships and getting on the phone and saying, we're in this really crazy time together. Your business needs to survive. My business needs to survive. My business needs to survive to help your business survive. If I shut the pipe, we both lose. So how can we work this out? And clients were so forthcoming and endearing to.
They showed up,
but they liked that I approached them in this manner instead of having a definitive, your credits at max. I won't move your shipments. It was, how are we going to work through this together? I reached through every resource I could get to get money, and some clients still couldn't pay timely, but I kept the pipe open and we agreed to long-term payment plans. And thankfully and respectfully, they have been coming through with consistent payments.
What were the conversations going on within your team? Were they scared? Were they excited? What was the energy within the team, and how did you navigate through that?
Well, the stress levels rose because of the space constraints. You had to really pick almost whose shipments took a priority. So again, you had to reach out to the clients. You have 10 containers. Which ones must get on board? It was a big juggling act. That was very stressful. The reward was if you were working on X amount of percentage on $20,000 cost of goods, you can see the shipment of the file. You can see the benefits of and reap your rewards. You did all this extra work, but the forwarding community made a lot of extra money.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about what you learned personally about that experience. What did you feel like you did really well in that time? I mean, this is unprecedented. This has never happened in world transit, in transportation. Forget about freight forwarding for a minute. Just
in any industry, the cost of goods multiplying by such a
10x in the span of 3 months
doesn't happen.
What did you learn about yourself? What did you feel like you could have done better?
Well, first I've learned about myself that I'm resilient, that I have the ability to see a problem and pivot to recognize an opportunity. So I learned that if I put my thinking cap on and I relax and I logically think through a process of how this problem could become an opportunity, it opened up the reality of life, that life is more than just black and white, numbers. It's about relationships. It's about how you carry yourself, how you are perceived by people, how you want to be perceived by people, how you approach people, because it could have went one of two ways, as I told you. Get on the phone.
Well, you're still here.
I'm still here. Yeah, I'm still here. Exactly. Better than ever, too. We'll talk about that later.
Yes,
healthier than ever.
Healthier than ever. So did you show up in the right mindset up front, or do you feel like you've navigated that and figured out, okay, this shit ain't working. I need to change my energy, change my attitude, change my focus? Or was it like right out of the gate, okay, I need to show up a different way, and that worked out? Or like, tell me a little bit more about that, details of that experience.
Yeah, no, it's not something that I think anybody can handle and just on the, in a nanosecond make a decision. And it took a lot of thought. It was a lot of stress.
It's an incredible amount of uncertainty.
Yeah. Uncertainty to, agents overseas changed their credit terms to me. They didn't want to lay out such millions of dollars. Shipments came in collect, some shipments came in prepaid, and you had to kind of really figure out on the fun how we're going to make this work. So, the entrepreneurial spirit is that, you have to look at a P&L, you got to look at a balance sheet, you got to look at your cash flow, which is huge, and see how you're going to make it work. And, between myself, outside accounting specialist, we were able to, figure out what needed to be done. And it's not letter perfect.
Yeah.
And then it's about the human, the human feelings, the human passion, the human understanding that we're all in this together.
Elaborate on that.
Well, we're in this together, which means that as a society, instead of fighting and being so rigid, you have to agree upon what's the best for all parties.
Puts a whole nother perspective on conflict resolution, because you're really trying, it's like when you're in significant crisis, it's really easy to fall into ego and to think about survival and just you, but you had no choice because you were sort of in the middle.
True.
Yeah. Fascinating. Let's get to, what I'm really, really excited about is talking about your personal journey.
Yeah, it's been a hell of a journey. Actually, the illness happened right during COVID, in the middle of COVID in March of 21.
Yeah, and I don't know how many people know about this story, and I'm excited to be able to bring it a little bit more public today. Mm-hmm. Why don't you give us a little bit of background about what happened to you and what experience? You're an entrepreneur, that was clear. Mm-hmm. And you're a dedicated dad, a family man, but you were
raising your child,
and you had this huge curveball, nuclear bomb,
keeping my business intact, and then Yes, this curveball.
This huge health curveball. So
Right.
I want to slow this down because this is a really important story for a lot of people. But why don't you just start by elaborating kind of what happened and how you got there?
Well, I mean, I'm processing it as you asked me that question because I want to see how far back I want to go. But, the universe, I was a believer, and now 10x more believer in the universe. If you allow yourself to see the signs, it works in your favor. My daughter was going through a bad time. I put her into a boarding school. That's also a therapeutic center. She snowboards, I ski. Daddy, snowboard. Amira, no. Daddy, try it. Okay. Lo and behold, I fall. I wound up fracturing my rib. She, in the middle of the night, it was so much pain. She had to drive me, and she doesn't drive. She was 15 at the time. And she drove the Jeep to the hospital. They took x-ray. They saw something. They took a CT scan, and they said, you have 8.5 to 9 centimeter mass on your left kidney. Okay, well, what does that mean? It's not good. It's not good. What does it mean? We can't help you here. You need to see a specialist. Could be the C word. Is it cancer? Kidney cancer? No, not me. I'm too healthy. I'm athletic. Cancer doesn't run in my family. I mean, really, I don't know anyone in my family that has died in multiple generations of any type of cancer. So I know it's a disease that's hereditary. And that was like, wow, the possibility that I might have cancer. Anyway, getting back to Miami, I saw one specialist at Mount Sinai, very highly renowned. He said he took an MRI, results came back. Bosniak 4, 99.9% it's cancer. He wanted to immediately to remove the kidney. No.
Remove the kidney.
Remove the kidney. I said, no, I'm not going there. With no due disrespect, if you're in my shoes, who would you see? He sent me to the chairman of Columbian Presbyterian. From there, I went to Columbia University. I saw up 3 doctors in New York, 1 in Miami, Keck Medical Center, UCLA, was supposed to be the number 1 guy. Some were specialists in robotics, some traditional. The traditional was a huge cut. Downtime is long and there's no guarantee. The robotic just...
So they assess, there's 5 different doctors that you got input from, and they all said, we need to remove this thing.
Right. And I had to make a decision with which doctor that would align with me the best. And that was difficult because I hear that it's very important to make the best decision, the doctor that cares the most. Long story short, I was deciding between 2 doctors, and I couldn't decide. So I'm out here in California at the time, and nobody knew about my condition except one friend and my brother. And the friend calls me, he goes, go see Sudama Kennedy. Who's Sudama Kennedy? He's a spiritual healer. He's even recognized by the United Nations. Well, I said, sure, I'll do anything. Got a hold of him, made an appointment. Oddly enough, I show up at his doorstep. He's not seeing people at his house because of COVID, but he would see me. I show up at 11:11. He said that's a powerful number. So I said, yeah, things are good. He sat me at his patio. He did some light therapy. He sang some weird stuff. He did multiple therapeutic hand motions, energy type of things that I wasn't aware of. But he was explaining to me that a lot of these type of diseases are, toxic from stress, from long-term built up of whatever might have gone in your life. And if he could neutralize these cells, and he was kind of quirky and stuff, and he said, I don't even know if I can help people, but they say that I help him. Long story short, he felt that he neutralized. And I didn't go there for that. I went there to see who I should use. the one robotic guy or the one traditional guy? And he asked me a couple of questions. This robotic guy, very young guy, was the only guy that said, I will try my best to save most of your kidney. Most of the other one just wanted to remove it, except for the straight cut guy, but he said it's going to be very difficult. And he says, think about the person that shows 5% or 10% more caring. They will exponentially perform in the operating room. And this guy showed like 20 times more caring, because he called me and he followed up and he asked how we were, or how I was doing. And we became friends afterwards. And as a doctor, which usually you think of doctors pretty straightforward and, watch their tone, he was very down to earth, talking to me as a brother. Hey, bro, I'm going to take the best care of you. Don't worry. I'm really freaking good at what I do. And he was like, it was like going to an event, like a Olympic thing. I mean, that's how riled up.
It was like jazzing, like
he was
riling you up.
Yeah, riling me up that you're in the best hands. And the night before the surgery, I wrote Dr. Cowboy loves my kidney. So when he pulled up the gurney thing and he saw it, he laughed. He says, you're in good hands. A week after, came back from pathologist, and he says, called me up, and no joke, he says, David, you're the luckiest fucking guy I know. There's 5 different types of cancer cells. We don't see any of them anymore.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. I was sitting next to my mother and father at the time, my stepmom, and I was like, unbelievable, because he was talking to me about, the post-surgery procedures of radiation or
So let's slow it down. Let's go back a little bit, because this is a very short time that we're talking. Like, this is within a few weeks, really.
About 6 weeks from
6 weeks
to operation.
Right. And no sign of any issues prior, no health issues, nothing. Some ski accident.
Mm-hmm.
What would have been the consequences if you didn't find it during a ski or snowboard accident?
Well, I was told it was dangerously close to the renal artery. So it was a matter of, I heard 6-12 months before it wasn't going to be operable. And then who knows what could have happened after that if it gets in the bloodstream. But what I was able to learn from myself when I got the diagnosis, after totally being hysterical and breaking down in my car, crying, I said, I need to handle this on my own. And what can I do? I'm into physical fitness. I'm into healthy foods. I also like to binge party, so I had to look at my life and say, am I gonna binge party every day because now my life is maybe shortened? Or am I gonna step it up and be disciplined and do whatever I feel is required to put me in the best physical and mental shape?
So tell us about that journey.
Yeah, it was a long, hard journey of going completely raw vegetarian. Broccoli and radish in your mouth, I hear, or I read, is very antioxidant. So I would set the alarm clock every 4 hours, wake up, eat that, a couple of gallons of water, in the gym twice a day. This is, before surgery. And I just kept it. I go, it's clean. I didn't do any of my other things in my other lifestyle that I like to.
So no partying, no drinking, no staying up late, just focusing on health and nutrition.
Right. And after surgery and during this time, I, as soon as I could get back up on my feet, I continued, to be physical and be healthy, and heard stories of, people who had cancer, just because I guess the universe puts those people in front of you. As you tell the story, oh yeah, this one's relative passed of breast cancer. This one passed of kidney cancer.
But before that, you don't hear those things.
Before that, I don't hear those things. And I'm like, well, that's not me. And it made me really understand how strong the human mind could be. Because you listen to a lot of motivational, I do listen to a lot of motivational tapes and YouTube. They tell you how to be strong, but they don't really go through the experience of when you're weak, at your weakest moment. And at your weakest moment, when you have the most fear, is when you have to be the most confident. And confidence can come to you in more than one way. I'm thinking my confidence came in denial to some extent, because I was like, no way.
So wait, explain that more. You mean that you were confident in the denial of there's no way I'm going to allow this to happen to me? Is that what you mean?
No, that I sort of, but denial that I don't have the disease, that 5 specialists are wrong, that denial. I'm not feeling any symptoms, what they said I should be feeling, and just the denial that this is actually occurring. And then converting that into confidence and researching different, treatments of how you can beat some disease mentally, how you could beat some disease by changing your diet, and going 150% in that direction, and not thinking much of it, just doing it because I'm doing this with a fight. I heard about stories where people just lay down, and I'm wondering what makes somebody decide to fight and be positive, and what makes somebody decide to lay down and be depressed. Very interesting, because why does a human mind take some people one way and some...
Do you think you had a choice in the matter?
Yes, you always have a choice. There wasn't a gun to my head saying that you better do everything you can in your power to self-heal.
But the calling was so strong within you.
Well, I had reason to live. I know what I have here. I don't know what's on the other side.
What was the most difficult part?
I think the most difficult part was the night before, telling my mom and dad I'm making that phone call. That was, because they're both elderly in their 80s, and nobody wants to hear about their child being sick. I experienced, unfortunately, a very sick child way back. So again, life throws you curveballs, and there could be problems, there could be health, and you have to try to come to grips with what's happening, and then pivot, be positive, and look for an opportunity. And I think it's not easy. When you're down, when your mind is down, it's difficult to bring it up, but you will power through, because that's what I can, if I can inspire anybody, it's like when you're at your most lowest moment, it seems almost impossible to power through, because the mind likes negative thoughts. I think mine does. And I just try to dig deep and think positive and look at what I have. And coming here, ironically, I was meditating or just relaxing on Santa Monica Beach yesterday, and this jogger bumps in or almost ran by this homeless guy, and he's like, "Sorry, have a nice day." And the homeless guy said, he was great. He said, "Have a nice day? Freaking kidding me? My timeshare is 3 garbage bags full of I don't know what kind of shit. My chariot is this wagon with 3 out of 4 wheels working. And here, my chauffeur is a 4-legged friend that's, sick like me. Have a nice day." And I started laughing. And I said, as bad as things in my life may have been going, I'm not in that position. I don't think I ever will be. But that's down and out. So in life, you have highs and lows, ups and downs. But as long as you tell yourself you're never going to be out, that's motivation to move forward. And, I like to hike, climb. And I think you never have to know where the top of the mountain is. You just have to know that you want to keep getting higher or going higher.
Are there habits and behaviors that you took extreme decisions in that you continue now in your life?
I continue certain decisions in certain mind frame. I wasn't one of meditating. I wasn't one of being such a strict vegetarian. I'm on again, off again vegetarian. The meditation helps. And unfortunately, the reality of life, getting back into your routine, dealing with minutia, you step back from how fortunate you are and you get upset about little things, and you don't keep that level of severity of discipline. I suppose that the people who do could be very successful in whatever they choose to do. If I keep that discipline in anything that I want to do, with my company, with my personal life, as a father, as a friend, as a partner, I would be number one. But that level of discipline and consistency, that's the extreme 0.00001%, I suppose. It would be great to have that longevity of that. But, life is real, and life comes with, like I said, ups and downs and different challenges.
Well, what I love about your story really is that I think that it is, you talked about discipline, and I think life hits you in all different types of ways. Sometimes you are expecting it, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you have discipline to prepare for whatever shows up. I'm not sure if you can ever really prepare for that type of news. I think it's remarkable in the way that you responded to it. You did it like a warrior, which I think there's a lot of power in that focus and that energy of that will, right? That strength, that will. Because any amount of uncertainty in that process probably would have created more disease or more dis-ease, right? Mm-hmm. I was talking to somebody else, but I think that, what's interesting about, I was talking to somebody else about like our mind.
Yeah.
And our mind creates so many thoughts of like, oh, well, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do that, and can I do this? And all these things that we think we're focused on, but we're actually distracted with. Mm-hmm. So many things, right? And what I love about some of these moments in our life is that it just takes that diffusion of focus and it completely focuses on one singular thing. And if you focus on that one singular thing, pretty much everything else gets better.
Yes.
Right? Like you had a health scare, you had to focus on your health, but then like everything else ended up working itself out, let's say, but you would have never focused on your health to that extreme and recalibrated yourself, let's say.
Right.
If that didn't happen. And the second thing that I'm really fascinated about, what was I going to say? I forgot what I was going to say.
Okay, but no problem.
Yeah. So go.
Sometimes these, interviews, talks can be a little bit stressful, intense.
No, this is good. This is an important topic for me.
Yeah. Well, there's not much more to say except that you can any individual can surprise themselves with the consistency and discipline and the amount of power that you never thought you had.
Yeah.
And I believe you have to have a lot of adversary in your life to become stronger. Mm-hmm. Some of the motivational talks I listen to is, they say life is hard, life is difficult, prepare. It's not going to be a walk in the park. And it's how you deal with certain things that happen to you in business, in personal, outside your core or circle of control. You can't worry about too much, world events,
yep.
Wars. But inside your circle of control, I believe there's two ways to deal. Surrender or rise.
I Actually, now I remember what I was going to mention, because I think
Good.
that often we live in a very stress-driven lifestyle. Everything creates stress, right? And our mind creates the stress. I'm going to profess a little bit here because I think it's really important for people to think about this. And I remember when you called me about this subject and when you were experiencing this. And I believe that the first advice that I gave you was eliminate all stress in your life.
Yes.
And not that stress is not good, but when you're in disease and your body is in disease, you're not in your autonomic nervous system and your body is not healing in any way. And so stress deregulates the body and it doesn't allow the body to start focusing on healing. And so if we can tap into that more regularly in life, where we create moments where we're not stressed and out of our mind through meditation or relaxing or going for a jog and getting into alpha or whatever, getting a massage or taking a relaxing long vacation or whatever that may be, but to get out of the normal systems of the mind to get your body to rest and recover, which is something that I think we don't do enough of.
I slept 10 hours last night knowing I was going to do this.
Yeah, exactly. We have to rest and recover so your body can fight it, right? I mean, you had something a little bit more dramatic, but there's every day, you talk about anxiety, depression, diabetes, mental health. All these things are because our systems are, just dysregulated with stress, worldly stress. Not like the cheetahs chasing you, but just worldly stress, the people and money and expenses and environment or whatever.
Right. And now they talk about, post-COVID stress disorder, that people, are acting a little bit not themselves or depressed. I mean, teenagers across the country, the depression rate went up, by 10x or something. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You can't even find a therapist for a teenager these days. I know, I'm experienced in finding therapists.
Well, what I love about you is that you are really, really a confident guy, and you're often confident in all aspects of your life. Even if you don't know intellectually what to do or how to manage or the information, let's say, you come from a self-confidence place.
Yeah, but I want to add something to that. My confidence doesn't come naturally.
So tell me, where does it come from?
It comes from me because I'm humble. I'm a very spiritual person, and I'm not cocky. And it's interesting that I portray this confidence, but my confidence comes from me thinking through what I need to do to be confident. My confidence comes from fear. Exactly. If I really got to assess it, the confidence comes from fear, because that emotion of uncomfortable, anxiety, fear happens to a lot of us in a lot of different situations. I got anxiety today when you showed me your life chart with the dots.
Life in weeks.
Life in weeks. And realizing how much of your life has passed and what have you done. Just looking at that and thinking about where I would have, had the circle pinpointed on the chart was uncomfortable. But then I had to think, I'm here doing this. I'm talking about a challenge that I overcame. The world is still so beautiful. There's still so much opportunity, but it doesn't come all the time naturally. It comes from the power to put the negative aside or put the
quieter, maybe
but put things that make you feel good, have that crush things that make you feel bad. And this happens possibly in seconds, subconsciously. Sometimes I'm very conscious of what I'm doing. So that's where the confidence comes from. And the confidence comes from me looking back on my accomplishments, whatever it may be, as a dad, as a son, as an entrepreneur, as a survivor, and again, experiencing the up and the down, but never allowing myself to be out. Because I think once you're out, I might wind up like that guy I met on the beach that has his timeshare with 3 bags of garbage and stuff he doesn't know, 3 wheels of a 4-wheel wagon, and a dog that hobbles around, and he's cursing at everybody that passes by because he's miserable. You know, it's unfortunate that happens to some people, but why? You know, that I will fight to the end of my ability.
Well, you're definitely a survivor. You're definitely a survivor, not only just in the cancer sense, but in the mindset sense, which I think serves you well in your business, in your family. And then, you know, now you had a situation with cancer and you deployed that energy in an incredibly powerful way.
Thank you.
You survived on the other side, which is, I think, really, really remarkable. What advice do you have for people? What question would you advise people to ask themselves, or what advice do you have for people that are maybe suffering through something? And I'm not going to create context to that, but maybe they feel like they're suffering from something and they can't get through it, or they feel lost, or they feel alone, let's say.
Interesting enough, this just happened to me. You know, I'm dealing with the situation. So yes, I can relate to that totally. It's so hard to get those negative thoughts out. They possess you, and you don't think there's light. I really had a struggle to get on the plane to come here because of what I'm going through. And even when I was on the plane and I got my upgrade, I was thinking about
turning around.
But I know that you got to follow through, because on the other side it gets better. And it's extremely rewarding to feel when you're so down, if you can just keep moving forward. And to do that, my advice is to think of anything positive. Think about something funny. Those emotions will overcome the negative for a second, but then the negative will come back and overpower it for a couple more hours. But then you go through that whole exercise, and I can only speak for myself, of something else that's good, what you mean to somebody, what makes you happy, what are your goals, what are you achieving, knowing that time is one of the best healers, that eventually you, with enough positivity, the universe will show you the right way. And of course you go back to the sadness, but the sadness gets less profound. So just recently, I could relate to people that are so sad, and I could relate to them being stuck, because I was stuck for a full 24 hours. I was so down, and I don't really know the exact reasons, but I wasn't out. So as long as I'm not out, I forced myself to think of nice things. I bought myself a nice lunch, had a couple of glasses of wine, relaxed, went to the, saw this. Then you see people that are in much worse shape, and I think that you take one step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, and you pass through that dark place. That's my advice. Keep moving forward. And as a summary, one life, it's a real gift, and live it.
I love that. I really honor you for your, again, courage, not only to live through what you've lived through, but to share it openly and transparently with people. I really was hoping that people could hear the emotion in your voice, which I think they will. And it's really a powerful story. I think very few people have the experience that you've had, but a lot of people experience all kinds of things that with less severity perhaps than cancer or the risk of dying such dramatically in such a traumatic amount of time. But the mindset, the story we tell ourselves, how we convert from sad to optimistic. I won't say happy, but at least optimistic. Right.
And it doesn't matter, at least from my experience, what the people from the outside say, because people said, "What? Look at you. Look the way you look. Look the way you act. Look the energy you give off. Look the opportunity you have, the business you created, the daughter you have, the family you have." That doesn't help at the moment you're sad. Only what you said.
Yeah.
Only only your own self-mind could redirect or rechannel the negativity or the sadness into positive, as far as my experience.
What do you hope to leave behind with this knowledge?
I hope to leave behind that my life had some purpose, which I'm still figuring out.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. So that's really, I haven't, and that's why I'm still here, because I haven't mastered what my purpose is. I think I'm mastering the ability to control my mind, which is very healthy. But I have to know my purpose, which that's why I'm here. That's why I'm still here.
This is a really special episode for me. I really appreciate you coming all the way out here. As I wrap up, I want to ask you a question that we ask everybody, but you have a different perspective on life. But for you, what does it mean to live a rich life?
To live a rich life is really to know in your heart that you're good and to have a smile on your face, because it's precious and it's a gift, as I said. So if you could accomplish those two things, you're living an extremely rich life, and everything else will follow.
Well, I thank you so much, David, for coming out and doing this. I know that it took a lot. I'm glad you didn't.
It was difficult.
I'm glad you did not turn around. I'm glad you did not turn around and leaned into it and plowed through it. I think hopefully you got a little bit of liberation from sharing the story. I think people will really grace you with this story as well. And I just appreciate it so much.
Well, I appreciate being invited. And even this discussion had a stressful, preface. I was freaking out a little bit.
It's not supposed to be stressful, guys, but it was an important, deep topic that I wanted to bring out today. So,
and I hope everyone enjoys this episode. And thank you for participating in the Rich Equation.
Yes, and I'll put all your email and links and stuff in the show notes if anyone wants to connect with you and ask questions and all that. But I sincerely appreciate it, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah, man.
Thanks.
My boy.
Yep.